Hello everyone. This is first video introduction to ALS system, Advanced Locomotion System version 4. It will be an introductory video to this system, why it's so popular between developers for Unreal Engine, and why it's different from all all other different locomotion system in the marketplace, and why it's different even from ALS version 3 and 2. So why ALS is so important and popular, and what might make developer so enthusiastic to use it in their project? First, it's give general basic workflow for any good structured game. For most of uh, beginners, developer who try to make games in Unreal Engine, they don't have the concept of uh, which function should be in which blueprint or in which place. For example, especially between the character blueprint and the animation blueprint, some developers don't know where to put the function or the variable or the calculation for each functionality or mechanic. ALS using perfect structure, how where to divide and to put every single functionality in its correct place, and make it like organized to be and able to make the project bigger and bigger without losing track of everything and its correct place. So anyone who try to work with ALS will find everything in its correct place. So just build on top of that and develop that to have a good structured project. So the second thing gives an example of excellent reference for learning Unreal Engine animation and character development features, and how to mix it with the good animation to get perfect character movement. ILS Advanced Locomotion System, the developer Mr. Caleb used every single functional animation functionality in Unreal Engine in his system. If you um, if you try to use or if you try to use this project, you'll find to everything that almost everything that Unreal Engine provide for developers used in this project, especially for animation, because the background of the developer, he's animator and started working in Unreal Engine, so he used almost everything. I uh, like everything I learned about animation in Unreal Engine, I learned it from this project, because everything I find and ask what is this and how it how this is work, and then try to understand that functionality to learn more about Unreal Engine more and more. And the person, I think the person who know everything about Unreal Engine, about ALS system, know almost most of thing he need in Unreal Engine to make any mechanics or any character movement he want or he plan to build, because developer of ALS used most of the useful functionality in character development. ALS is not heavy on most platforms and give a chance to extend it extremely without worrying uh, uh, about it's flooding the memory with tons of animation that can allow slow down the game. ALS use really smart systems, especially in animation. Use system overlay called overlay system here, which is using really smart way to make the character change animation and change mechanics and poses and have different weapons without need for having a big library of animations for every single mechanic or every single weapon. ILS use a system I will describe later, which is the overlay system that make developer can use just one frame, one single pose to make entire animation. So in the end, you need just few frames to make a mechanic. Like for example, let's try to find example. Working, working. Like overlay system, for example, the the bow, for example, this. See the all the bow mechanic is just few poses that change from different possibility like crouch, aiming, relaxing. All different poses is just in one small animation and it's really small on the disk, so you can have tons of mechanics or animations without having a really big project. So that this make the system really performance friendly on most of the platforms, uh, especially if you have many characters on the scene that use ALS system. Especially if you use the C++ version of ALS. I saw many example of hundreds of characters moving in the same time using the complicated system of ALS without losing performance. So the developer of Advanced Locomotion System thought about the animation as everything happen in the legs and the hip and divided uh, that movement into several layers on top of each other. We can change any layer or add or remove or interrupt in interrupt any layer to give different effects. You can see it's starting from here, like for example this deciding the movement in different directions. It's using let's talk about this later better in its correct uh, correct timing, because it's a little bit complicated. So this decide just the feet which direction move. left, right, forward, backward, in every direction. This decide if a character is walking or running, and how to change between walk and run, and if change when the character running or have high velocity, which and change the direction suddenly, use the pivot functionality. This important here. It's decide when the character stop or moving. This is just for moving character between walk and run. But after that, we decide here if the character is in a moving state or in still not moving state. And between them, we have the um, foot locking system, how the character lock his feet while he's when he stop. We'll see that later. Really smart piece of code. And here the animation for the turn of the character, or rotate left and right when we are in the looking direction mode. This is deciding is if the character change between standing and crouching state. This is layered after all of those. This decide after this, we'll go inside here to decide if the character is jumping or not, jumping or standing, grounded or not grounded. It means jumping or not jumping. So when we finish all of this, just crouch, same like this, but just crouch. When we finish all of this, we go to layer this on top of this. So this is the upper body holding weapons, animations, and poses. And we can just small thing to understand how good it is, the overlay system in ALS. If we try to find in ALS idle animation, we will not find anything. It's weird for most of new uh, new developer in ALS, because in any project, every first thing we do to change the project and persona make it special as our project is changing the idle animation to our idle animation. And to do that, just we look where is the idle animation, where that idle animation, use it and change it. That's all. But in ALS there is no idle animation. There is just secondary animation that layered on top of other animations. I can see like example here. For example, in this looks like idle animation, but it's an additive animation that added on top of any poses, like this still pose, and overlay system add on top of this an additive pose with like breathing and little some movement of the character. So to make this pose look natural and look like the character is breathing and moving and have some life. So it's smart because we don't have to do that life breathing every animation. We need just one and layer it on top of any other pose or any other animation. We will learn later how that works and how it's possible to do that, and what is limitation, and how to do our similar functionality in other functions. This is just a brief introduction to overlay system. We'll talk much about this because this is most important thing in ALS and need lots of time to explain everything inside and everything about especially the curves and how the curves control the functionality. Next we have the foot locking system. The genius way to keep the foot locked where it should be locked and move it just to get locked in new location and eliminate any ugly feet sliding we can see in the most of the old game. All of that using just two transition animation and smart place piece of code. The foot locking system in ALS is one of the most important, I think the second most important thing of make ALS look so special. Most, I think every game I saw, especially indie game that's not AAA game, have sliding feet in most of its animations and mechanics. ALS don't have that at all. You can feel the fruits is locked all the time and always have small adjustment, natural adjustment the character do in his feet to put it in the correct place without sliding it. You can see here when we stop, see this, after seconds the character correct its foot and lock it in new natural location without sliding it. And when we run, we can notice the feet. When we stop suddenly, the character don't slide the feet backward to its natural falls, but just put it forward, then put it back again, like just like normal human. I see here. See. So the feet when we run, the feet whenever we stop, the feet get locked to natural forward. The upper feet, the feet that it's in air, will get locked in its forward location, supposed location. Then after stopping, the character will do transition to put the feet back to its natural location to stand. This happened through code and through just two small animations, small two transition, and this is located here in the first layer of animation, locked here inside. We saw before here in stops. You can see the feet, left and right feet. When we stop, system check which feet is in the air and try to find its supposed uh, location and lock it there, and after second do transition to put it in the correct place using different code we will see later. This foot locking system is not just when we move, but sometimes, but it's even when we are standing and just turning like this. The move, the when the character turn, or when we are aiming, especially when we are aiming, you can see the feet is changing from. See, the feet is changing to the new location to adjust its location to the new aiming location using that foot locking system and transition, and avoid any sliding no matter what, even we are using a really fast change in rotation when we aiming, but the foot always try to lock to the next location to make the movement looks natural. This calculated start in the update graph starts in here in the update foot IK, lots of codes here and triggered here in the dynamic transition. So I'll try to show you how big it is, the code inside here and here, just in another project. This just a project I use it to learn ALS and copy and paste code from inside the uh, inside this functions outside from inside to outside to see how big it is and how complicated it is each its function. So here the code here is just this. It's all of this. So it's all of this. It's I can see it's all of this. There is lots of steps. Start from here, then this, then go here, and all of this code, then finish with this. Lots of calculation happen to make the feet locked in the correct place and don't move unless it move through transition to another location. And that's where is it? Calculated here and triggered especially here. Dynamic transition. This is the code inside. It's here just simple check every second if the character his feet is in the actual supposed locking position. If it's not, will trigger this dynamic uh, this will trigger this function, that will start in the animation, that will start in the event graph, will start this functionality to play transition transition animation and lock the feet in the new uh, foot locking system through the let's, through this through the IKs calculated here in this function. Of course, this is just done by me. It's just copy paste here to understand what control this and how it's the values here get calculated from other functions. Next, we have the monthly mechanic. Even it's just basic climbing system that including ALS4, but it's perfect reference on how any mechanic should be built and structured to give an ability that work perfectly in every condition hu- without bugs and can be extended easily. I think the monthly mechanic or climbing mechanic in ALS is one of most what one of the most functionality that make ALS really popular because it gives uh, a basic monthly mechanic with really good uh, reliable and really accurate. Most in most of the climbing system we can try in most game it's so buggy and sometimes work and sometimes don't. But the ALS monthly system is just almost perfect. Work every time in every situation. That's because there is lots of calculation and uh, lots of uh, values checked before starting this mechanic system. Almost, I think, 6 or 7 functions and layers of code that play the role of make that just simple climbing over small or big uh, big ledge. We can next we have the 6 direction movement system in the looking direction rotation mode. And how clever is it is moves from state to another with noticeable fluidity and can be affected and changed depend on type of weapon character hold for which hand. The ALS system movement movement in looking direction, like when character always look in direction of the camera, not the movement direction. So the character can move left and right without turning toward that direction. Can move backward and backward left, backward right. This it's I think the most fluid uh, movement system I ever saw in any game because the developer used a really smart system to change the character movement from direction to direction without uh, uh, without uh, making the change noticeable. Like if you notice when we move left and suddenly we move right, the character spends some time before turning right. See, the moving the hip is toward the right. When we move left, the characters move just for 1 or 2 seconds uh, the hip toward the right, then turn toward the left. It's a mechanic to avoid, like if there is many change in direction, character will not keep change the hip direction in short amount of time that make the movement look not natural because the hip is really heavy piece of the body, so can't change very easily. So shouldn't change unless uh, the movement of the character is sure will be in other direction. This functionality calculated here in the lower body part here and here and here and here. This decide the movement of the character in every direction and how this direction moves linked to each other is really smart. Like for example, when we are moving right and try to move left, there is no direct link between the right and the left. The character will not go from the left to the right, will go from the right forward to the left backward first, and it's almost same like this, and wait if after a second or two go to the opposite direction. This is not just to make the movement fluid and looks good, but it's even important for weapons, because when we hold weapons, sometimes for because type of the weapon, some weapon should uh, make the hip of the character face right. Some of them make the hip of the character should face left. Like for example, if we use the rifle, the hip of the character facing right, like this. Whenever when we go left, see the character don't change here. Should character keep always uh, the hip on the right, because it's natural for this weapon. Do not turn the hip. Let's check it there. If we change the weapon like to a pistol, for example, it's the opposite. The hip always facing left and don't face right at all. So uh, the animation will keep stuck just here and don't go to the opposite, because of this weapon. This animation of this weapon have some curves that don't allow the turning of the hip to the opposite direction, and restrict it just to the left, no matter which direction you go. That's why there is this different uh, different states and linked in this smart way to restrict, to be able to be restricted whenever we need that. Next, we have the smart and complicated way that based on curves to rotate the character in the movement rotation mode. First, we saw how the character hip rotate, or character rotate when we are in starting mode, or looking direction mode. But when we change to velocity direction mode, we can see in this mode too the fluidity of the rotation of the character looks so natural and so good compared to any other game. It's not because just because of the animation, but because of the calculation too of rotation of the hip of the character, make the hip uh, turn before uh, before the feet, or make the hip sometime when the rotation is really fast turn late than the feet. It's there is many calculation happen in every situation to make the hip turn naturally toward the movement direction. This due to calculation that use uh, pre-made curve to smooth uh, the movement of the character. Like for example, you can see this here, that change values for rotation of the hip depend uh, on the rotation of the character compared to the velocity. So later we will check how this curve affects rotation of the character, and how this calculation affects the animation of the character. And not just affecting animation blueprint, but even go back and affect uh, the character blueprint and affect the rotation, even the rotation of the capsule. In actually, it's really complicated relationship between animation and animation blueprint and character blueprint in this rotation using those curves to make the character looks natural. So we will try to explain it as simple as possible at that time. So next, ALS have standard Unreal Engine skeleton to be able to alter it with any character easily, but add more many bones as virtual bots to fulfill some of needs in character mechanics, like holding different type of weapons, or important for saving a reference for the foot locking location to be used by the foot locking system, or the IK legs and the IK hand system that match the height of the ground or match the location in weapons where it should be held. Next, uh, next, next, ILS use standard sky. Yes, ILS use smart and reliable leg movement system that mix between six blend spaces using stride blend, walk around blend, and walk around blend and standing play rate. By mixing them depend on the direction of the movement and speed of the animation and the velocity of the character in such a way that give natural feet and leg movement in any situation. We saw before, like in the six moving directions that we talked about before here. This movement in this direction, six direction, is calculated before the animation used here inside is calculated before here in this six blend spaces, and using these three important, really important variables: stride blend and wall cramp blend and standing play rate. This decide just how fast it is. The steps depend on uh, the velocity of the character, and depend on how uh, depend on the size of steps. Is it short step or long step? Size of step decided here on stride uh, blend. If the character use short steps while the character move really fast, that means the play rate will go really high. But if uh, the character move really fast but use inside blunt, use like wide steps, very wide steps, so the play rate should go down to compensate for that and make the character move naturally without any sliding on the ground when the character walk or run. Uh, Work around that decided here in second. This variable is just decide if the character is walking or running. This actually is smart thing from the developer that he removed the option that most of indie developer mistake in their games and make the change smooth change between walk and run and fall in the middle where the character is not running or not walking, not running. It's in the middle. It's not natural at all. So developer here use in this variable he just decide is the character walk or run, not just like a boolean, and the transition smoothed in the other this two variable in stride blend and play rate change between them to make the character smoothly change between run and walk. Actually, really smart thing done in this really simple and smart calculation done here to be used later in different changing different directions movement of the character. Next, a layered animation on top of one on top of the other to make it easy to change, eliminate, or track a bug easily when extending the project. We saw before how uh, ALS layering uh, use the overlay system here and layer different parts of the character on top of each other here. Like start here, it's just dividing the animation layered top and bottom, layered from here, then dividing it on several parts of that 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 make the body like arms, legs, chest. Then mix it in a special way using this variable, so it can be changed later or it can be adjusted or limited to have different effects, and even can be track any bug or problem very easily if we can isolate that part we have problem in. So I think it's a smart thing to do. It's a little bit complicated to explain this without examples, so when we see examples, it will be clear and obvious after explaining other different parts before this. So the last thing, the ragdolling system in ALS, even it's rather simple, but the most realistic and fun to use because of the well-done physics assets and its limitation that the developer put in the system. Ragdolling system, I think most of people like to enjoy. It's so enjoyable how the character use its physics system, its limitation in make the character uh, behave really naturally as if it's norm it's uh, it's a real human being. This due to simple piece of code inside here, like here, just really simple piece of code, but mostly it's because of the physics assets, like mm, like physics physics assets like this one. Actually, the developer put an effort to put limitations in the physics bodies here to make the rotation look natural and rotate just correct amount when a force applied on the body. So it's one of make it one of the best ragdoll I ever saw. So I think that's all for now. This just an introduction, and please, if you feel that it's complicated or you don't understand most of what I said, it's completely normal, and it's not expected at all from you to understand most of what I said, because it's just few words and the system is really huge and need very long time to understand and to master and to learn everything about. So we will try in the next few tutorials and understand it and master it piece by piece until we can understand all of the system, and we can change and we can adjust and we can add on top of it. Thank you for now.